You are sacrificing months of your progress over this one singular mistake, and that mistake is novelty. I'm a state champion powerlifter, and that would not have happened if I had variety. So, I'm going to go ahead and explain to you now why this is one of the biggest mistakes that beginners make. So, for one, novelty, the biggest trap is that it feels productive. Whenever you change up that split, you change up your exercise, that feels productive, but it just isn't. So, the reason why it feels productive is because you're going to have more soreness and sometimes even a better pump. You're going to feel, more productive. It's going to feel like you're incurring more muscle damage. So for all the beginners out there and the people that might not know, soreness is not actually a direct indicator of muscle growth. So what you shouldn't be aiming for isn't just pure muscle soreness and pure just, how it feels, how the pump is. You should also just be aiming primarily for how much weight you can add from week to week while maintaining your form. So the main reason why novelty is so problematic whenever it comes to actually making substantial gains in both strength and hypertrophy is because the more novelty that you implement, or aka the more that you change up your program or your exercise selection, the more like your actual ability to perform these exercises gets reset. So let's just say that we were bench pressing for 6 months, right? And over the course of those 6 months, we got better and better and better. Well, that movement neurologically is no longer really the same. We have become more neurologically adapted. While we could have the same amount of muscle tissue, we are stronger on this movement. That's basically the basis of strength actual like training. It is developing your CNS to a point where it's like your nervous system is becoming more efficient at recruiting more muscle fibers that you already have. Whereas like hypertrophy is actually just building up new muscle fibers. So this is actually really detrimental to strength training because the more novelty that you actually implement, the more you reset your strength, obviously, because you're not going to become highly effective at recruiting new muscle fibers that you already have if you are constantly trying to, hit it from a different angle. So let's go ahead and go over where novelty has its place. Let's say that you have been doing a program for a good while, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 months. You've gone through a complete another cycle of the program and you are beyond bored and you are ready to go ahead and switch everything up. Now then it would be kind of advantageous to go ahead and try and hit it from a new perspective, right? So I'm a powerlifter, and after I got out of high school, I did not have access to the appropriate equipment to continue powerlifting. So I went on a bodybuilding hypertrophy phase where I hit muscles from angles that they've never been hit before. And after going through that initial month of just learning the actual movements and everything, well, I started gaining a lot more size than I had before. I started getting new muscle. So now going back into powerlifting, that new muscle has actually it's been advantageous to getting my strength back a lot quicker than it otherwise would have been. But still, just that bit of novelty, I needed to stick with one hypertrophy program. One. And anytime that I would change up that hypertrophy program, which, there's a reason why I'm making this video. I changed up that hypertrophy program 3 or 4 times. 3 or 4 times. That is a lot of wasted progress because each and every single time that you start introducing new movements and everything into your actual programming, you are having to relearn those movement patterns before you can actually get to so you can go to failure. You can go to failure on these movements and you can get super sore and get a huge pump. But the amount of actual growth that you get, mechanical tension, and the things that actually matter don't come until after you're actually adapted to these movements. So what I would basically do is hop from program to program to program. It would feel great. More soreness, which I haven't felt in a long time since I've become really adapted to exercise overall, and a crazy pump. But the issue is that my actual progress would be just stagnated. Anytime I would actually program hop, the pump would make me temporarily look bigger, but the actual progress in the gym, where it's like you look at me from picture to picture to picture, the progress was just nothing, basically nothing. So where I'm kind of tying this all together is you need to just stick with one thing. The lack of variety creates actual results. So whenever a program gets boring, don't think of that as boring equals you're stalled. Boring means that you are getting into the most effective part of the program that you're in. Okay? When things get boring and you're no longer getting sore and the pump isn't crazy, that means that your body has adapted to the actual stimulus. That means that you can add more volume, more load, and you can actually start, hitting this from a more effective angle, because that soreness and that pump was never actually the real main potentiary of muscle damage. And it's a sign of muscle damage, it's a sign of growth, but it's not the main sign. It's not, they're correlated, but they're not like hand in hand. So as a key takeaway from this video, please, whatever you do, whatever you choose, stick with it for as long as humanly possible, because once it gets boring, that's whenever you make the gains. Once the diet gets boring, once you get tired of the diet, that's whenever you make the most progress in the diet. Because right before you hit the point where it's like, oh shit, this is working, you're going to be very, very, very bored for a very long time. And if you are interested in speedrunning your beginner to actually novice phase in Asthetic powerlifting, then check out my course in the description. So, till then, see ya. And you can actually start, hitting this from a more effective angle, because that soreness and that pump was never actually the real main